There's another huge insight that's brand new for me, because I think I've probably over-indexed on the explain it away, be empathetic, have sympathy, while trying to remind myself I'm not responsible for it.
So what I just shared was myth 3, that this idea that they don't know what they're doing. This is why this is such an important point. That person who's careful, they make sure there's no one else in the car when they're on speaker. They scream at you after the dinner party's done. All the dinner party guests, the family, might still think they're a cool person because they've never seen the rage. Then that person experiencing that relationship often not only doesn't have support, they're having to endure other people saying, you're whoever it was, your friend, what a great person, or like, love the new boyfriend. And you're like, everybody likes them. And then what do? Well, if everybody likes them,
What's wrong with me?
It's got to be me. And that's why the book's called It's Not You.
Wow.
The fourth myth, and this is sort of the myth to rule all other myths, which is they can change, right? Everyone can change. Okay, so let's start with the simplest example. I'm going to put myself here on the shopping block. I am an agreeable introvert. That's Dr. Ramani's personality. No matter how bad a day it is, I'll roll up to the person at the airport, hi, how are you? Or that car, because I'm thinking, I don't know what day they just had. So I'll really say, you gotta show up, you gotta be warm and friendly, even if you're not feeling it, because kindness is good. My agreeableness has been there. If you ask my mother, she'll say, from the day you were born, you were the sweetest, easiest baby in the world, smiling in every picture, right? But I'm an introvert. If somebody says, Ramani, you'd be so much more successful if you were a bit more entitled, put yourself first, could be a little bit more arrogant, like, do it. My team sometimes says, like, come on, you got to put yourself out there, Ramani. And when I do, I feel sick. I can't do it. The times I'd be like, I need to be first. I'm like, no, I don't. I can't do it. But if, let's say somebody even said, just go out there, be more entitled, be more grandiose, be more arrogant, be all these things. Stop having all this empathy, stop. What is the likelihood I could do that? And be the life of the party?
Zero.
Okay, so if I can't make those changes, why would the narcissist? And my personality is less rigid than theirs. If I can't become a disagreeable extrovert tomorrow, why would the narcissistic person become a big, huggy, empathic, unentitled, open, vulnerable person? I can't do it, neither can they. And they're less likely to do it because their personality is more rigid.
Wow. I mean, that makes all the sense in the world.
So we're actually asking something unreasonable of the narcissistic people when we think that they can change. And when you throw in there, they're less likely to go to therapy. And when they start going to therapy, they're 60% more likely to drop out of therapy. When is this change actually going to happen?
So is that the reason why we don't know how many narcissists there are? Because they don't go to therapy?
They don't. Not only do they not go to therapy, a lot of the research, Mel, focuses on measuring how many people have narcissistic personality disorder. And that you're going to see rates of 1 to 6%. Right?
Versus a style.
But versus the personality style, where we're never going to get those numbers. People have said, come on, spitball a number. If I were to spitball a number, 20%, 1 in 5.
That high?
Enough narcissism to cause problems in relationships? Yeah. Do they have NPD? I have no idea. But 1 in 5 people, I think, has enough narcissism to cause a problem. I think if you go to major metropolitan areas, it's going to be worse. I think if you, in certain industries, it's going to be far worse. Finance, law, politics, media, athletics, celebrity, much, much worse.
Wow. There are 5 different patterns that narcissists have that you write about in your new book, It's Not You.
Yeah, so DIMMER is an acronym I use to sort of help not only people who are going through these relationships, but clinicians organize the pattern. The DIMMER patterns, and I use the term DIMMER, is because it really turns down our light. And narcissistic people are dismissive, invalidating, manipulative, minimizing, but also gaslighting is in that manipulation. They're entitled, and they're rageful. And all of those patterns, the dismissiveness, the invalidation, the minimization, the manipulation, they turn off our light, because the only way we can then survive in a relationship with a narcissist, if we don't know what it is, right? The only way we can survive is by giving in, which means subjugating ourselves to them, pretty much living in their service. Because when you do that, the narcissist views us like I view this cup. Right now, I love this cup because it's holding the water I need. I'm fond of the cup. Thank you, cup. And that's even a stretch to thank the cup. When this is over, I'm going to throw this cup out because I have no more use for this cup. That's how a narcissist views a person.
What I find fascinating about that is that you constantly think about the narcissist in your life.
All the time.
But they don't think about you.
No, unless they need you, and then they think about you a lot. So you, like this cup, I'm thinking about this cup now, I'm about to take a drink out of it. They're not thinking about you unless you serve a function, or unless they think they're going to lose you. The one thing we forget about narcissistic folks is they don't like abandonment, because it is a loss of control. There's an argument that narcissistic folks also have attachment issues. They either have anxious attachments, avoidant attachments, or a mix of both, but definitely insecure attachments. So the idea that their source of supply could get up and leave, and that's not what they want, means that they've lost control of the narrative, and they will punish that person for doing that.
Another one that you write about is domination.
Mm-hmm. Domination patterns are classical in narcissistic relationships because the function of a relationship for a narcissistic person is really to give them a place of power, domination, and control. And it's the only way they can function in a relationship. So as a result, all narcissistic relationships are asymmetric. There will never be balance and equity in a narcissistic relationship. They have to have more power. So that's why, for example, in an intimate relationship, a narcissistic person will often want to have more money. And if their partner has more money, that's not going to work for them. I remember working with a client where there's a woman, and then she had a very narcissistic partner. She made the money. She's incredibly successful at what she did. And he was absolute textbook malignant narcissist. And he would cut her down constantly, cheated on her all the time. Anything to make her feel smaller and smaller and smaller. Then one day he got into a new line of work, and his career really skyrocketed. Then the balance switched. He was now making more money. And money is a very, very powerful source of supply for narcissistic people, because in our culture, it's one of the fastest routes to power you can get. So then he continued doing all the abusive things, but now he was much more secure in the relationship. And strangely, he started behaving a little better, whatever better is. But you see the same thing in families too, right? It's all about power, domination, and control. And it doesn't have to be the patriarch or the matriarch. It could literally be a sibling who is the one who is exerting that kind of power, domination, and control. And so the power isn't always where you'd think. And obviously, when you have a narcissistic father, for example, it can really, really be painful for everyone involved, because that person's already more societally powered, just by being a man in charge of a family. But that's a central motivation. I think what happens for a lot of folks who fall in love with a narcissistic person is they believe you both want the same thing. We're in love. We're doing love things. I'm like, no. You're in love. They're in power. Understand the difference.
Whoa. That's a big one. You're in love. They're in power. Understand the difference. That leads right into love bombing. Mm-hmm. What is love bombing?
Okay, so love bombing is a strategic approach a narcissistic person takes at the beginning of a relationship to win a person over and secure them as a source of supply. In the most classical, grandiose form of love bombing, it's a relationship that feels like a fairy tale. It's dinners out. It's love text. Good morning, my angel. Good night, my princess. How's my queen this morning? That stuff is narcissism central. This is the greatest love story ever told. Like, where have you been my whole life? On Instagram, found my soulmate. Narcissism. I see her here, soulmate. I'm like, someone's in a narcissistic relationship. You know how it's like every time a bell rings, an angel gets their wings?
Yep.
Every time I hear soulmate, someone fell in love with a narcissist. Same thing. Like, that is that kind of talk. Magic connection, once in a lifetime, picnics on the beach, let's fly to Paris, let's spend every day together for 2 weeks, good night, queen, good morning, king, all that stuff. That's love bombing. However, that's not the only way it shows up, because some people say, that did not happen to me. Love bombing also might play on, for example, let's say someone's a rescuer. And especially with a vulnerable narcissistic person. Vulnerable narcissists are really, really good at pulling for pity early in a relationship. Like, I'm so lucky I met you. You're such a good listener. Like, nothing's ever gone right in my life. And you come along, you're listening. Like, I guess my luck's changed, but oh my gosh, thank you. And so you're like, my project, I am going to save them. And if that's your thing, then they are the ultimate. They're like a fixer-upper of a human being. So you're like, no, I know a guy. I'm going to introduce you to this guy. Like your car's not working. Oh, please take mine. No problem. Or I got you. Like, we're going to make your dreams come true. That is crack for a vulnerable narcissistic person. So it can be this rather vulnerable opening up. And that's how their love bombing shows up. But the mistake people make is we only think of love bombing in a romantic way. Love bombing can happen in families. When a family member needs something for you, now listen, your parents didn't love bomb you because you kind of like, it was built into the model. Like you had to love them. Like you had no choice. But as time goes on, narcissistic parents will do the equivalent of love bombing. They need the kid to be what they want. Like, hey, honey, like, you're the best. Oh my gosh, you're doing so great. Like, you're going to go out, you're going to win that game. It is pizza, it is ice cream. You want to go to Disneyland? I'll take you to Disneyland. So it's the parent throws the little goodies in there to get the kid in line, sometimes even to be a source of supply for them. And as you get into adulthood with a narcissistic parent or a narcissistic family member, they will do that same sort of, you're the best, here's all this stuff, we'll do anything you want to be able to keep you, maybe sometimes just on the narcissistic supply chain of the family.
I do have one question about the love bombing, because I saw this happen with somebody that I care deeply about. The like, you're my queen, I love you, angel. And the problem is when that happens to you as a human, you literally do think you found Prince Charming or you found the one. And like all of your chemicals in your body are going bananas because you are attracted to this person. And they're like, what do you do?
You ask such an important question, because the other thing that happens in love bombing is that the narcissistic person tries to push the accelerator on the relationship.
Yes.
They want it to go fast. If they want to lock down your supply, right? And remember, the narcissistic person uses a relationship not only to get supply, and a key form of supply is status. So
what do you mean by supply? You've used that word a lot.
Is the admiration you bring a person, the validation you bring a person. It could be your attractiveness, it could be money, it could be social status, it could be sex, it could be time, it could be novelty. Remember, the reason love bombing works is that it's new not only for you, but for them. Narcissistic people are reward seekers, but they don't care as much about punishment. So they don't think about consequences. They think about reward. There are biological theories of narcissism that suggest, like the nucleus accumbens, those areas of the brain that are very sort of dopamine happy parts of the brain, that reward sensitivity, that has been shown in the research to be very much the case, that they don't think about the punishment, the thing down the road. They think about the thing that feels good in front of them. But they are trying to lock down the supply. So if you're a good source of supply, you praise them a lot. You're so hot. You're so cool. You're so great. Let's go Instagram official. Anything that's bringing them what they want.
Just like
as attention, right?
I know, but as a 55-year-old woman, I see it happening with so many 20-something. I'm like, you did not meet the love of your life. You are not marrying this person right now. Calm your freaking jets.
Mel, I'm gonna call you out on that.
Keep your IUD in.
Here's the thing.
Let's not lock this sucker down. Like, you are an irrational, insecure, you are obviously I can't say this to somebody.
But I'm going to call you out on that. Let's not just be mean to the 20-year-olds. I am watching 55-year-olds.
Oh, I'm sure, because like if you're newly out of a marriage or you've been single forever and somebody suddenly comes out of the blue, I understand. Like, we all want attention and to feel good, but how do you discern? I guess because a normal person doesn't go, you're my queen, 10 seconds after they meet you.
That thing is, the narcissist is too clever to say you're my queen 10 seconds.
Well, it's like the date that goes for 48 hours.
That's exactly right. It's the date that goes on for 48 hours. They say goodnight. And think of it. Let's say somebody's been dating a bunch of people who aren't responsive, who wait 3 days to text and all that, which narcissists can do as well. But a really full court press love bomber, they'll send that, are you home, baby? Can't stop thinking about you. Ding. And then in the morning, good morning, queen. I just dreamt about you. Ding. Middle of the day. But the really good love bombers, they don't go crazy. It's not every hour. Maybe around lunchtime, like, hey, I hope your day is going well. And then they might even wait a minute. They're still not the second date. They're very, very
So
tactical.
what would happen? Let's just say that somebody hears you and they're taking everything that you're saying to heart. And a couple months from now, you get in a new relationship. You go on this absolutely fabulous date, right? The next morning, Angel, I hope you slept well. I dreamt about you all night. Like literally. And so then middle of the day, can't get any work done, can't stop thinking about you, can't wait to see you. That night, another date, goes all night. It's just like, what are the, when are we getting married? And you start to go, oh, somewhere in the back of my mind, between the dopamine rush and the sex hormones that are flying through my body, I remember Dr. Ramani saying something about the fact that this could be love bombing. Like, is there a stance you could take just to test the waters a little bit where you don't respond for 24 hours? And then, like, is there something to do to interrupt yourself?
Okay,
because you're not going to stop the love bombing.
Have you ever been on vacation to a place like Hawaii or some other tropical island?
Not Hawaii, but somewhere else.
Some other tropical island.
Yes.
Because you've been on a vacation like that, right? Did you move there?
No.
You came home.
Yeah.
Would have been nice to stay there. Umbrella drinks, days in the sun, reading the book, right? Like, telling people to interrupt the love bombing is telling people, you just got to Maui, come home. Stay in Maui for a week. Have some fun. But as soon as, like, I kind of miss my cat, my dog, I kind of miss my bed, come back. Ride the love bomb out. Have some fun. You want to test it. The things you'll see early on are things like the narcissistic person doesn't tolerate disappointment well. If anything pings their entitlement, for example, they don't get the table they want. There is a wait at the restaurant. They did lose the reservation. The bags get lost. And they get really, really crunchy and entitled. You just got your first sign. And catch yourself in the excuse, like, well, we did just have an overnight flight. It's not okay to yell at somebody for not finding the bag, all right?
Right.
You've now gotten your first piece of data. One of the most interesting things I remember learning in graduate school was the supervisor told me, I was learning to be a therapist. He said to me, the first time something happens, it happens. The second time something happens, it's a coincidence. The third time it happens, it's a pattern. So take the first time as what it is, call the second time a coincidence. By the time the third time comes, it's time to leave Maui. Pack those bags and come home. Because I, as a psychologist, can tell you, it's impossible for me to tell someone to leave something that feels that good. The key is that when you're getting good morning queen, soulmate nonsense, to recognize this for the tropical vacation that it is, and to remind yourself that this is going to run out. I am going to need to go back to real life again. And when that rule of threes hits and say, yeah, no, this isn't cool. This isn't okay. But that is a really, really tough nut to crack, because what the love bombing does, and this is why it's such a useful tactic, it creates buy-in. Because what has happened is you've now created the idealized foundation of a relationship. And maybe that's the thing, is that idealization really has no place in a relationship. Is that we're trying to fall in love with the whole person. And the whole person isn't always a day at the beach. The whole person is the regular stuff. But unfortunately, in the app dating world we're in, narcissistic people have the best dating profiles. They have the most curated images. They've got, like, they're in cool places and they always look good, and the abs and the whole thing. It's a whole thing. And so you're really trying to catch people as they get lost in this world of love bombing and all of that, is telling them to go against human biology. That's a tough sell, and I think that teaching people more than, like, when these sorts of little red flags start popping up, pay attention. If it feels too much, it is too much. And you're a grown adult. It's not supposed to be a fairy tale. I still think we live in a rom-com world, and where we think this is a normal way to have a relationship. And I also think that the West is very romance-oriented.
It's true.
And any world where there's lots of romance is where the narcissists are going to win.
What is narcissism?
Narcissism is a personality style. Let's move the disorder piece off to the side.
Every time I talk to you, I start to wonder, am I a narcissist?